Sometimes I think colleges and stuff, they just go out and try to find out.
And then coach him down, like the way bring in a that's averaging 25 and was the guy, like, and to do that with like 4 or 5 guys to be like, all right, this
That's why a lot of kids don't make it, because they don't know how to handle that. But like I've been asked, like even going to high school, college, or whatever, like.
Now every year we hear of talented prospects who are supposed to be the next big thing. Fast forward only to find out that they can hardly do any damage even in a college setting. Now oftentimes this is due to a glaring weakness: can't shoot, can't play defense, is undersized. No matter how much talent you have, these weaknesses are enough to keep you out of the game. But even more oftentimes, it's not due to a lack of talent or a glaring weakness. There's a more detrimental reason for why these players never make it to the league. So this video is not so much about specific players: Amani Bates, 7th Woods, Mikey Williams, players that were supposed to be the next big talent and for some reason have fallen short. But more so, this is about learning how to adapt, aka shutting up and fitting in, so that when you go into your hoop journey of you trying to make it to wherever you're trying to go, you don't fall short in the same flaws that these players have made. Now, the truth is, this is probably the most critical skill or mindset or knowledge base that you have to have as a hooper going through different levels of hooping. You know, when you're in elementary school, it's a different ball game as when you're in high school. In high school versus college, completely different ball game. And from college to league, you have to adapt in many ways. So typically this is how it goes. From grade school to high school, if you're one of the better players, you get to do whatever you want, play however you want, because the talent gap is just so big. That means that one particular player can completely change a game, can win you a lot of basketball games. And because of that, coaches don't really need to coach. They just need to put their best players in the game when it matters most. So when you're younger and the talent pool is all over the place, you can kind of do whatever you want. But fast forward and you go into college, where now you're on a top school and you have 3 different state leading scorers on one team. Who's gonna be the leading scorer on this team? You can't all do it. So you gotta take a role. You know, maybe 1 and 2 can lead the team in scoring, but that third person, we don't need 3 leading scorers. That third person has to take on a new role. They have to adapt to now taking a back seat. Now all of a sudden, maybe they're a spot-up shooter. All of a sudden, they're being asked to play defense and do things that they never really had to do. They're used to coming from a background where they just are handed the ball and they do what they want, but the game has changed because of the talent. So now this third leading scorer is being asked to take on a completely different role, and they have to be good at it or else there's no room for them on the team. And it's an ego hit, honestly. You know, you're known to be the scorer, and all of a sudden you have to do something that's not scoring. It's a hit to your ego, and a lot of players may fall into an identity crisis. Like, what do I do now? I'm known as a scorer. In my city, everybody knows me as a guy who can get a bucket, and now I'm on a college team and they're asking me not to get a bucket. So in a lot of cases, there's a lot of fight back, push back. Players don't fit into the system and they get pushed out. Now, this is a mentality thing, and that's before we get to the systematic approach that college basketball has, because it is the most systematic, more systematic than the NBA, where you're kind of given back your free reign to go do whatever you want because the talent is ridiculous. But back in college, you know, a lot of players are going to end up losing their love for the game of basketball when they're asked to do something they don't want to do, aren't used to doing, and it kind of takes away from their glory, where these guys they've been superstars, they've been glorified at such a young age, and now they got to take a back seat and play a role, and that just doesn't work. So if you can't adapt, you can't make it. Now, sure, you can go ahead and say, I'm just gonna train to become the best scorer so that I can be the best scorer on the best team, but then all you do is limit your chances of making it, because you're just closing out so many avenues. You're closing out so many ways. Now you've closed out to the idea of you becoming a great defender and squeezing your way onto a roster by playing great defense and rebounding well in certain things. If you're just gonna focus on one thing, and obviously scoring is just the example we're using here because it's the most common one where people just want to get a bucket, but there are many other ways where you can be a great defender and there are better defenders on your team, but because you're so focused on just being a defensive guy, you haven't maybe thought about developing your 3-point shot or your rebounding ability. It goes both ways. Even to add on to that, yeah, scoring is the most common example, but even players that like to be ball dominant, like to be on the ball, and all of a sudden they're asked to be off the ball. You know, sometimes they're just playmakers, but they like to dribble a lot. Once you move them off the ball, they don't know what the hell to do off the ball. They're just standing in the corner and just waiting at half court. You know, you're going from maybe a 1 to a 2, and you know, you can't dribble as much. Maybe you got to just catch the ball and shoot it, or catch and swing. So that's another example of someone who doesn't really know how to adapt to their new role. Or someone who's a tall player who refuses to play center, something like Anthony Davis. that's another example of not fitting into your role. And I use Anthony Davis as an example because Anthony Davis is an elite player, and it just shows you that adapting is continuous. It's a continuous cycle. It happens even at the highest level. You know, you're gonna have to adapt throughout your career. Now, someone like Kevin Durant, no matter where he goes, he's gonna be the leading scorer on the team. He needs to be a bucket getter on the team because he's just probably the greatest scorer we've ever seen. Like, yeah, ever. But another great player, maybe someone like Bradley Beal, for example. He was a leading scorer in Washington. They sent him out to Phoenix, and all of a sudden they wanted him to be playing the point guard. You know, it all depends on the circumstances. Not everyone is a Kevin Durant. Not everyone is a LeBron James. Now, speaking on LeBron James, another factor in when your role may be required to change is your age. Now, obviously for you guys, this shouldn't be a factor because if you're trying to make it, you're young and, you know. But in some cases, some of you are too young and you have to take a seat back to some older players. But in the context of this example, LeBron James is a great playmaker, one of the greatest playmakers we've ever seen. But now he's old, so now his role has changed. Luka's on the team, he has to take a step back. And because of that, he realizes, hey, Luka, you take the ball and I'm gonna work on my catching three-pointers because I'm gonna have to stand in the corner because I know how Luka plays and he's gonna do some magician type pass. I'm gonna have to catch it and make the shot. So understanding the circumstances and understanding the situations, you know, that helps you build what role you're going to be playing. Now the question is, how do you know what role you're supposed to play? Now the truth is, if you have a great coach, he'll just communicate it with you. He'll let you know straight on, hey Trey, when you get that ball, attack the basket, do whatever you want, get us a bucket. Hey Allen, we're gonna push you on the other team's best scorer, defend him, make his life miserable. Hey Timothy, when you get that ball at the three-point line, let it go. If not, dump it to the post. Clear communication by the coach, assigning roles, assigning what everybody's mindset should be on the court. Now that makes things simple. Now, if your coach isn't the best coach or he hasn't made it very clear, you can always just ask, hey coach, what do you want me to do in this situation? What do you feel like I should be doing on the team? Now the thing is, if you're very deep in the rotation or not in the rotation at all, most times the coach is not gonna have a role for you, like period. The truth is, he may be looking at you and saying, I don't even know why this guy is here. He may not find value in you on the team. A lot of players squeak it on teams where, you know, the coach doesn't necessarily agree with that player being on the team, or really the player doesn't pan out to be maybe what the coach thought he was, and there's not much use. That's where you have to sort of take it upon yourself. You have to analyze the team, study the team, and look where there's gaps. Now, this is a skill in itself, identifying your team's weaknesses, just like you're film studying on another team, looking at their team weaknesses. You're gonna do that same thing for your own team, analyze your team and say, honestly, like we're really bad on defense and we maybe have one good perimeter defender, but we need a secondary one. I'm gonna be that guy, or whatever the case is. Now, obviously it's gonna be relative to your height, your role, sorry, not your role, but your height and your position. If you're a power forward, don't say I'm gonna go be the best perimeter defender. I mean, it's a great thing to improve on, but like you're not gonna be put on the floor to go guard the 2 or the 1. So just be sensible and make that analysis with like, just have some sense. Like, now that's the beautiful thing about basketball. There's so many skills and you can sort of just analyze and just pick, hey, I wanna be great at rebounding, I wanna be great at dribbling. Well, dribbling is kind of useless by itself, but I wanna be great at playmaking, shooting the ball. Just analyze your team and pick 1 or 2, ideally more than 1, but if you want to really master and hone in on 1, go ahead. But do what your team requires of you and eventually you'll find your way onto the court. Now, it might not necessarily be with the same team that you're on, but you can find your way onto a court if you really hone in on what teams need. So now you have your role and you're performing it well. Maybe you're in the rotation, you're getting your little 8 to 12 minutes a game, you're feeling nice, but you kind of feel like I can do more and I don't want to be in this box for the rest of my career. I gotta show more if I want to get to the next level. Now, this is very common with taller players, guys who think they can bring up the ball and dribble up like KD when all honesty, they really can't. But nonetheless, you feel like you can do more and you want to showcase it. How do you do this? Now, in my personal opinion, this is my opinion of how I would go about it. I'm gonna showcase it in practice, right? I'm not gonna bring it out in game. I'm not gonna do random stuff in game when it matters the most to showcase my talent. That's not how it goes. In practice, if I'm, for example, a big, and currently I'm a great defensive big, I can rebound well, and that's my purpose on the team. That's my assigned role that's my bread and butter, right? So I'm in practice, we're scrimmaging, and maybe I get a block, I get the rebound, and I push the ball up the floor, right? The point guard's bringing it up the floor, and maybe he pulls out because there's nothing there, and he kicks it to me for a trailing three. And I know in my head, hey, I've been working on my three-point shot all summer. I have confidence in the shot. I'm gonna catch that shot and I'm gonna let it go in practice. Now, you're gonna do a couple things. Immediately after that shot, whether it goes in or it misses, you're gonna read your coach's reaction, right? Now, if your coach is mad, you know, you're cooked. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this is not the place for you to experiment. Some coaches are like that, where they just feel like, play your role and shut up. But if your coach is looking like, hey, that's a pretty good shot, especially if it goes in, obviously, but even if it doesn't go in and it's a good miss, your coach may feel like, hey, like, I see some potential there, we can build on that. But some coaches will just shut it down immediately. But anyways, back to the point, let that shot go, and that's how you introduce that you've been working on something new in scrimmaging. Now, truthfully, it helps if you're communicating with your teammates also, letting them know, hey, I can shoot, or maybe they themselves are encouraging you to go out and shoot more. They have to be aware, because the truth is, that same player who kicked it out to you is not gonna give it to you if they don't believe you can make that shot. They're gonna tell you to get in the post. They're gonna start yelling at you until you get in the post. So they have to be aware of what you're trying to achieve here, what you're trying to introduce, and it just goes a long way. You have more people on your side and more people advocating for you, right? Anyways, I want to keep this video short and concise. Comment down below any issues you've had on your current team with your team roles. Follow me on IG, I'll keep some updates up there, and then I'm JiggyHills and I'm out.